Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Pressures growing on Israel to allow more aid into Gaza as the ceasefire continues to hold. On Tuesday, Israel told the United Nations that it would allow only half the 600 daily aid trucks called for under the deal. Israel had accused Hamas of moving too slowly to release the bodies of dead captives as part of the deal. On Tuesday night, Hamas handed over 4 more bodies. Israel said 3 of the bodies have been identified, but the 4th did not match any of the known hostages. Meanwhile, Israel has returned the remains of 45 deceased Palestinians. Health officials in Gaza say the bodies arrived with their hands and legs cuffed. In a statement, Nasser Hospital said, quote, "Some are blindfolded. There are signs of gunshot wounds in some cases, while others have been run over by tanks," they said. This comes as negotiations have begun for the second phase of President Trump's 20-point plan. On Tuesday, Trump threatened the United States would disarm Hamas if the group doesn't do so itself.
But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm.
In other news from Gaza, the group Handicap International is warning Palestinians face enormous risk from unexploded bombs and mines. The group estimates Israel dropped more than 70,000 tons of explosives on Gaza over the past 2 years. Amazon has fired a software engineer who criticized the company's work with Israel. Ahmed Sharour had publicly opposed Project Nimbus, Amazon's $1.2 billion cloud computing project that Israel's used to store surveillance information on the Gazan population. In Italy, more than 10,000 protesters marched for Palestinian rights Tuesday ahead of a World Cup qualifying soccer match between Italy and Israel. Police fired water cannons and tear gas to disperse the crowd. Italy won the game 3-0. In Chicago, ICE agents were involved in a high-speed chase to pursue a person. The federal agents then arrested the individual in a residential street when protesters gathered in the area. ICE agents used tear gas to disperse the crowd. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker called the treatment of the protesters abominable, saying they were simply holding signs and expressing themselves, unquote. Meanwhile, Facebook is suspending a popular Chicago area ICE sighting group at the Trump administration's request. The group has been used over the past month during Operation Midway Blitz to warn neighbors when ICE agents are near schools, grocery stores, and other community locations. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, county officials voted on Tuesday to declare a state of emergency over immigration raids.
We will be urging our colleagues today to declare a state of emergency because what's happening across Los Angeles County is an emergency. It may not be a wildfire or an earthquake, but it is a man-made emergency created by our own federal government. ICE raids are spreading fear and confusion in every corner of our county.
The U.S. State Department says it's revoking the visas of 6 foreign nationals over social media comments they made about the assassination of the conservative activist Charlie Kirk. On X, the State Department posted, quote, "The United States has no obligation to host foreigners who wish death on Americans." The State Department continues to identify visa holders who celebrated the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk, unquote. The thread then went on to list examples of posts by the foreigners, identifying them as citizens of Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Mexico, Paraguay, and South Africa. It comes as President Trump posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk during a White House Rose Garden ceremony Tuesday. Leaked Telegram messages published by Politico show leaders of young Republican groups from New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont sharing racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, violent language and praise for Hitler in more than 28,000 messages over 7 months. One message by Joe Maligno, the general counsel for the New York State Young Republicans, read, quote, "Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic," unquote. Another message by Peter Gunta, the chair of the New York State Young Republicans, who was responding to chat members watching an NBA playoff game, read, quote, "I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball," unquote. In response to the leaking of the messages, Vice President J.D. Vance posted on X, "I refuse to join the pearl clutching." Arizona's Attorney General is threatening legal action if House Speaker Mike Johnson continues to delay the swearing-in of Representative-elect Adelita Grijalvo. In a statement, Attorney General Chris Mays said, quote, "We are keeping every option open to us, including litigation, to hold him accountable and make sure that Adelita is able to begin her work as Arizona's newest member of Congress," unquote. Grijalvo would be the final 218th vote on a discharge petition to release the Epstein files. Last week, Speaker Johnson was asked whether he was delaying Grijalvo's swearing in over the Epstein files, to which he replied, quote, "It has nothing to do with that at all," unquote. The federal government shutdown has entered its 15th day. On Tuesday, the Senate failed again to pass a funding bill as Republicans continue to refuse to agree to extend expiring health care subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. President Trump's threatening to cut more funding for projects in Democratic-led areas if the shutdown continues. According to the New York Times, the Trump administration's already frozen or canceled over $27 billion projects in Democratic-led areas. In other news from Capitol Hill, Congressional Democrats are pushing new legislation to fully fund the Supplemental Nutrition Program, WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children program. Amidst the government shutdown that's furloughed tens of thousands of workers here in the United States, President Trump has offered a $20 billion bailout for Argentina. Earlier this year, Argentina's far-right president, Javier Milei, attended the conservative CPAC conference in the U.S., where he gifted billionaire Elon Musk a chainsaw. On Tuesday, Trump hosted Milei at the White House and conditioned Argentina's bailout funds on Milei's party winning legislative elections this month.
We're going to work very much with the president. We think he's going to win. He should win. And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time, because you have somebody whose philosophy has no chance of making Argentina great again.
This comes as critics point out that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's friends, who lead major hedge funds, including BlackRock, Fidelity, and PIMCO, are heavily invested in Argentina and would benefit financially. Reuters is reporting China's buying at least 10 cargoes of Argentine soybeans after Argentina removed grain export taxes. The move further shuts out U.S. soybean farmers from the Chinese market as the U.S. threatens 100% tariffs on China. Caleb Ragland, a farmer and president of the American Soybean Association, told Reuters, quote, "Every time China turns to South America instead of the U.S., soybean farmers and our farm families here at home lose out. Without a trade deal that removes retaliatory tariffs, farmers like me are left watching key opportunities slip away." A third of U.S. soybeans were being sold to China. President Trump announced in a post on Truth Social that the U.S. has attacked another boat allegedly carrying drugs near Venezuela, killing 6 people. It's the 5th deadly strike on boats in the Caribbean since September. It comes weeks after an internal Trump administration memo classified drug cartels as non-state armed groups whose actions constitute an unarmed attack against the United States. NBC News is reporting congressional lawmakers from both parties are growing frustrated about the lack of information about the strikes. One source told NBC, quote, "The Republicans were mad that the briefers were unable to answer questions about the legal basis for the operations," unquote. 5 major broadcast news outlets have refused to sign the Pentagon's new press policy by Tuesday's deadline. The policy states media outlets and reporters cannot obtain any information that the Pentagon does not explicitly authorize. Fox News, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's former employer, stated they will not sign on to the new press policy. In a joint statement, NBC News, ABC News, CBS News, CNN, and Fox News all said, quote, "We join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, which would restrict journalists' ability to keep the nation and the world informed of important national security issues," unquote. In Madagascar, an elite military unit says it seized power after weeks of Gen Z-led protests led to the ouster of the president, Andry Rajoelina. Reuters reports the president left Madagascar Sunday aboard a French military aircraft. A crackdown on dissent by military forces killed at least 22 people, according to the UN. The army colonel reportedly announced a committee led by the military would rule the country for up to 2 years, instituting a transitional government before calling new elections. On Tuesday, protesters celebrated the military's takeover.
The military's stance is something we have been waiting for a very long time. First, there was the gendarmerie and all that, fighting alongside the government. Meanwhile, we saw that the people were at the end of their tether. It was truly wonderful that the army took part in the people's demands.
A new investigation by Reuters has concluded the former Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad secretly moved tens of thousands of bodies to hide evidence of mass killings. Between 2019 and 21, the Syrian government removed bodies from a mass grave in Al-Qataifa and then reburied them in a secret site in the desert east of Damascus. The project was done as Assad attempted to regain his international standing. Tens of thousands of Kaiser Permanente nurses, pharmacists, midwives, rehab therapists, and other frontline medical staff are going on strike. Organizers say the 5-day strike across 500 medical centers and offices in California, Hawaii, and Oregon could be the largest in the history of the United Nurses Associations of California Union of Healthcare Professionals. They're asking for a 25% increase in salaries over 4 years, claiming wages have not kept up with inflation. Here's pharmacist Jackie Hua.
During COVID, we were called heroes with capes on. But now that COVID is over, you know, we're being thrown under the bus. We're being told, no, we don't want to negotiate anymore. We don't want to come to the table and negotiate anymore and give you guys a contract.
The pioneering transgender activist Miss Major Griffin Gracie has died at the age of 78. In 1969, she took part in the Stonewall Uprising that launched the modern LGBT rights movement. For more than 5 decades, she was a tireless advocate for the Black trans community and trans people behind bars. Kiara Johnson, president of the National LGBTQ Task Force, said, quote, "She was a revolutionary, a visionary, a legend, a foundational mother of our movement, and an inspiration to those fighting for liberation." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.